If you like this video, please like and subscribe. We are here today welcoming Bart Smyth. Welcome, Bart. And I'm Reverend Sharon-Elizabeth at the Cosmic Center, Spiritual Light, here in Sarasota, Florida. And Bart, I think this is your fourth or fifth time that you're visiting us.
Yes.
And we're always very excited to have Bart here. Bart is a renowned quantum healer and a modern day shaman. And there's hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of people who have benefited from the service that you do. So we want to just really get right into it. And what I usually ask right away, Bart, is, what is your journey? How did you become this, international healer, as well as being, as you call, a modern day shaman, and mixing really a lot of different modalities into your own unique way of service? So how did it all start?
I'd like to say it started with a very in-depth planning. Now, really, my whole journey has always been following what I think I need or what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started venturing off into figuring out the first part of my life in '87, where I started going into psychotherapy, and my psychotherapist was working with Dr. Roquette out of Mexico, and Maria Sabina, and of course Stanislav Grof and Timothy Leary and the transpersonal psychotherapy in San Francisco and all that. So I had a company there, a construction company, and yeah, I'd had some bad injury that caused me to rely upon pain medication for the first time in my life, and when that was exposed to me by a friend, what that was doing to my liver, I just stopped immediately, and I didn't know that you could stop these medications immediately. I just thought, done, But my whole experience and how I perceived the world had changed due to those medications. So anyway, I tried to do it by myself in martial arts, which got me back on my feet. But when I got to San Francisco, things in my life weren't going well as far as relationships. My marriage had broke up. And so I started the investigation, and it became like my teacher said, you're starting one of the greatest journeys of your life. And at the end, you're going to meet the most interesting person in your life. I go, who's that? It's you.
Right. It's yourself.
Wow. So it was a journey to meet myself, and that keeps expanding. So.
Right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I have a couple of questions I know a lot of people are very interested in. And of course, you have many different modalities in terms of martial arts, but you also integrate the Yuan method. Speak a little bit about the Yuan method for our audience that may not be as familiar, and that is a topic that's out there now.
Yeah. I met Dr. Yuan in '94, actually, when I came back from training in China in Qigong practicing for healing, diet, and other things in martial arts. This method is one which goes direct to the source, so to speak. We access information through your mainframe. I refer to it as biocomputer technology, because basically we are biocomputers, and we have the ability through sensitivity, muscle testing, or just knowing, we get the answers, but we can go to our client and get the answer for what they need directly, and on their go ahead. So
what you're saying is you can go and really access the body wisdom of the client. Client has an internal knowing of what the body needs.
Well, we use different modalities of testing, or some people call it kinesiology. We don't do kinesiology, but when we started, it was a muscle test to access the information. And Dr. Yuan, of course, has his path to it, which has been kind of a foundation as I've gone through it for many of the methods that are out there. He was kind of like the first that I knew of. Kinesiology was present on the planet, but his approach to it was one of not only the biological, physiological information, but he came with the information from the Shaolin.
Okay, from the Shaolin temple priest, right? Mm-hmm.
Chinese medicine, quantum physics. He's a physicist.
Okay.
He worked in that realm. So, yeah, this is a method that everybody can learn.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually putting something together now to create a new path to delivering that.
That's exciting.
I do teach it and have taught it worldwide off and on.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So this, it's basically we all have the right apparatus. We just have to know how to use it.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so this is one of the pathways of healing that can assist and help someone.
Absolutely.
That's great. I wanted to talk now too. Also, I have a question. Really about the alchemical skills that you have, or the gifts, I should say. And your journey has brought you to Peru. I know you were ordained as a medicine man with a tribe in Peru. Is that correct? Shipibo.
Shipibo.
Oh, Shipibo. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that came out of my psychotherapy that I did, because the work that they were doing was combined with the teacher plants. And actually, we were part of a government program my teacher worked with in psychotherapy at the time. It was a model of Jungian Gestalt and body-centered psychotherapy called Hakomi, which the Native American word for who am I in these many realms. So anyway, I after I completed my own process to a place where life is good, I'm clear, and I changed my profession. I did, because of another car accident, I had gone into studying all the things that were working for me to heal, because I didn't know what was going to happen, because the first accident had been something that laid me out of my career, which was construction. I had an architectural firm and contracting company, but I didn't like just sitting in the office. I wanted to play with the guys. Right? So, anyway, I started training all over the United States, actually, in other modalities. And I came back one time to my teachers to work with them, and I met this ayahuasquera, and he's very famous, but very famous and unknown.
Right.
But he lived in the jungles for like 25 years before I met him, with some of the deepest, darkest tribes that were less known. And Kenny took me under his wing. I went to do some work with him, and of all the work I'd done, this made the biggest difference. It was the teacher plant ayahuasca. And we did it traditionally, very safely, extremely safe. He took me to Peru, and I worked with the Shipibo Indians. And I tell everybody it's kind of funny, because I really didn't go to become a shaman. And just like I didn't go to be a Tai Chi master, or I just.
But that's the destiny that led you there.
Yeah, and it's like they offered me the higher levels when I was there, and I just assumed we were all there for the same thing, and it wasn't that way. I said sure, and Don Benjamin spit in his hand, and we shook hands, and then the interpreter said, "There's no going back after tonight." I go, I think I've seen a movie like this, and that's what started it. And then it was many ceremonies, many years, and they, it's just like anything else, it grows in you, and you kind of become the medicine.
So at some point you were official by the standards of this tribe?
Well, I knew I was official when people, when I started being asked to do the work, and I had the abilities that actually my whole life I had been rather sensitive. And I thought it was shy, but actually I could tell what people had going on in their system,
So you had the propensity for that.
I had a propensity for it. And I just, I could tell things that like my brother and other friends didn't seem to have the clarity that I did. And I would not do things with certain people that they would, and it would always blow up in their face. And
right.
So
I would imagine they might have seen that in you too, and offered you the opportunity to bring it to a higher level too.
The Indians?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've been Yeah, off and on, I was visited by Native Americans. There's, they were knocking on my door at different times. I just wasn't ready.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I had no clue.
Right.
You know,
But now
I was
you look
pretty-
back and now you know.
Well,
Right.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I had a Hopi Indian in a bar in Pecos. I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Come over and give me some medicine one time at the bar, and I'm sitting there thinking he might be a problem because it's a bar. We're just having dinner.
Right.
And he came over and said, "This is for you." And I go, "What?" And he gave me some medicine and walked out the door.
Wow.
Now that was, I don't know, 6, 7 years, 8 years before I ever.
Before you knew what you knew now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's amazing. That's wonderful because I think what it is that it's from a perspective of understanding that you may not understand it, but someone else does and knows that maybe that little thing is plants a seed along your way, or at least makes you contemplate.
well, it might make some people contemplate. I just thought I was lucky, and I blew it. But yeah, looking back, it gave me confidence that I was on the right path, knowing that these gentlemen and women that I had come my way had the ability to know and see things that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. And now you do the same.
Yeah.
So,
True.
so other things too. And I'd like to talk a little bit. I think our audience would be interested in this. I've called you a couple of times. I know that when we get certain requests or concerns and it's beyond our scope of what we normally do, I give them your number.
Thank you.
And that is because you have an awareness and you do address the area of what one may say, cutting psychic ties, the removal of toxic energies, or some people may call them entities.
Sure.
I'd appreciate if you could go in a little bit more about that. And also that brings in the whole thing of ancestral tribal patterns and traumas and all of that. This is more in a very deep emotional, psychological dynamic as opposed to a physical one. But people suffer from it all the time. And I can see it getting worse in our world. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's kind of like the flame gets brighter right before it goes out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I knew what I knew I was ready to do was when the first client came to me, and it was a victim of extreme abuse in the Swedish church. And this woman came to me, and that's, she asked for help, and it was a very precarious situation because of her state of mind was one which I just knew it called forth for what I didn't know I had, but I knew it called forth for something that I had,
Mm-hmm.
I could offer, if that makes any sense. And it wound up being that she had taken on, we can call it a possession from the priest and the Monsignor of a city in Sweden that had been abusing children in
Mm-hmm.
an orphanage, where she was from Finland and living in an orphanage. So
Mm-hmm.
it was at this time I learned each step of the way. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing about having good teachers and doing it in a very safe, guided, and I like to stress that because everything that we do is not about a great experience. It's about getting the work done.
Right.
And so I just put that out as the most, as respect to the teachings and the medicine, because things can go into a place where if you're not trained and you don't have the right information in you, then I think everybody goes to where they should go, but it could be safer and better handled. And my teachers obviously have given me that, and I've been training my whole life in martial arts, so I have that sensitivity and ability to work with people in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And we can extricate things that are that come in from extreme trauma, drug abuse, alcohol. When people
Mm-hmm.
drink too much alcohol, things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know they're letting down
I understand it as their etheric web.
Yeah.
And that can tear with any sort of alcohol or any kind of addiction, drug
Absolutely.
addiction. And that kind of opens yourself up I always like to tell people, we are in this physical world, physical, mental, emotional world, five senses, but
Yeah.
there's way more going on. There's more going on in the invisible world than there is in the visible world. And a lot of what goes on in the invisible world, of course, impacts this physical world, the
Yeah.
visible one.
And so I've been doing that. I mean, I started in '87. Started with the Shabibos in, I guess, early '90s. And I've seen things really escalate. Sometimes in the potency of what's the person has within their system, and also the number. But now, and I don't predict anything, but the fact that there seems to be more chaos in the world, it's also, I see that I have this great sense of clarity and clearing, and I don't see that, without making a challenge of any sort, that there's anything more potent than we've experienced. I
Mhm.
think it's on the other side. And as we see in the world, where a lot of things got pretty bad, but now they're starting to clear. So
Right, right. And you know what no matter what in our evolution and from the beginning of time or part of that time, there has been a dynamic, of course, of where there's been these various competing forces, if you will,
yeah,
and it's part of our creation, it's part of our evolution, and so forth. But I feel that there is a culmination coming up, or a new cycle, if you will, coming up that's going to bring about another octave or a new beginning,
yeah,
a new opportunity.
yeah. It's just like I think for me, I can just equate it to my life. I don't need the same impact to stimulate a point of direction towards more pleasure and fun.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
I worked and struggled and impacted my life quite a few times before I started looking for a better way.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. And I think that's not only on an individual but on a collective
Yeah.
basis. That's where we are moving to. I have one more question, and you have really helped a lot of people with brain injury and
Yes.
brain trauma. Go into that a little bit for us because that affects quite a large population.
Yeah. And that's really, if I was to say, how did this all start? When I was 3, I fell asleep while my dad was building our beach house on Lake Michigan. And I crawled up into the loft and was watching him work. I fell asleep and I rolled off onto my head on concrete.
Oh
So
wow.
like 7 feet or something like
Yeah.
that. And I just healed that 7 years ago. But I've had 5 knockout blows from behind, and I played football, did boxing, karate,
Mhm.
motorcycles, slipping on the ice, yeah, a lot of different things. And I've had a lot of spinal and brain injury. So what after this last one I did 10 years ago, the process to heal it was totally out of my control and in my control. It's like I could only watch. I couldn't do anything that I knew to do because I generated too much chi from all my training. The brain couldn't take it.
Mhm.
And then the system went down to a place where it was like before walking that I had to come back because any any new move could cause injury or pain.
Mhm. Mhm.
So anyway, I got through it. I've healed my spine and my brain, and with that, I've become very effective. I can might sound strange, but I can feel and sense into the center of anybody's brain or body. And then I've learned I had to study brain injury a little deeper just to see because I really was in a bad shape. I mean, I could open the refrigerator and stand there for God knows how long, you know. And my
Mhm.
wife at the time would come by and say, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm looking for something to eat." And she goes, "It's full of food." And then I grabbed the peanut butter and jelly and bread and run to my office, you know,
Right.
because
Right.
I just I'd freeze.
Yeah, it couldn't
And
process.
yeah, so what I have seen is there's patterns of recovery in the brain that um, when if you hadn't gone through it like I went through it, uh, it can be very disconcerting
Mhm.
on the
Oh,
way
I would
back
say so.
because yeah, you'll relive different things that have happened in your life, and also things will be triggered where one might go to the negative with it when it's actually part of the clearing process. So I'm able to coach people and guide them with their thoughts and their languaging and diet and all the other. I've developed a series of exercises to help people, but also I do it all energetically over Skype and on the phone,
Right.
and people have huge rewards, and I am very grateful for that.
That's wonderful. That is really, really wonderful. So now I know you travel around the world and you teach, as well as the fact that
Yes.
you are available to do healings for people, and
Yes.
you don't physically have to be here. They have gotten it from Skype, and people have gotten. I know I've gotten the feedback. Some excellent, excellent results.
Thank
And
you.
talk a little bit about the group healing that you do, because that's what you're going to be doing over here now.
Well, group healing, two things. I mean, when anybody comes to a group healing, I want to give them something they can leave with. So I always do a presentation of the beginning Qigong practice that is very simple yet powerful. And actually, it's part of an art called Ichuan or Yiquan, which is mind boxing, they call it, or intention training. So I give that. Then I show people, I demystify how energy works in our body, how what we do with the martial arts, how things can be effortlessly creating strength of energy integration with thought and structure that makes us very relaxed but powerful. And that's what we want in life. So
yes.
so I like to give those gifts to everybody that were given to me. And then I systematically ask each person what it is that they'd like to work on. It can be anything physical, mental, emotional, psychological, psychic, or spiritual, or all in combination. And then, I work with them individually and collectively, the collective mind coming together. As they say, anytime more than
two or more gathered in my name.
And that works here too. It's like an accelerator. So we all work together. We all get the benefits of everybody's intention to improve. And so I work specifically with each person, and I also work to generally clean and support the body to cleanse itself. And as I say, I don't heal anybody. That's my title. I'm called an international healer, but we all heal ourselves. And I do exactly what I'm told and guided to do with each person. And with that, the system takes the information and they'll make all the upgrades for themselves. And it's great.
Great. And
very safe too. Very safe.
And I'd like to leave with our audience maybe some practical tools just from listening to this, to what we're doing here now. Talk a little bit about clearing space. There are people that, say you use sage. I know that they have the Florida water has been used, but from your perspective, in terms of somebody was home and maybe they feel uncomfortable or they just like to keep their place energetically high, what would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend a real quality feng shui practitioner. First off, because there can be so much enhanced that you could come in and do all the clearing that you want to do. Like your place, you've done all this clearing. You walk in, it's a whole new vibration.
Right.
So if you hadn't done that and we'd come in and cleared everything, you'd still have the stagnant energy from the structures and everything.
Right. So that would be the first thing, is making sure placement is harmonious.
Yeah. Maximize
in your environment.
Maximize what you have. I call it zenning. I'm always zenning my office. I'm always zenning my car. I'm always zenning my life, which means to get rid of anything that's obtuse, anything that's drawing my attention. Right. It's kind of like that thing that you have to do and you don't do it, and all day long you're going right. So
it won't go away.
This causes stress and tension.
Right.
So I'm not perfect at that, but that would be the first things to do. And once you get that stabilized, then the other thing is, for me, be it because I've been a martial artist my whole life, but with yoga, with quality internal focus and training that's available in yoga too. But that I do yoga, but not much. But I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that. But for me, I think it's so important for us to find something physical that's going to enliven our body,
Mm-hmm.
right, and strengthen ourselves to any environment, so we're not drawn down by wherever we go.
Right.
And the thing about qigong and tai chi, this is the focus. So we focus to develop our chi and our energy resources, and become sensitized to ourselves, and also somewhat sovereign, I would say that, in our energy field. So we're not leaning. And then I think these are the most important, is to take care of ourselves.
Yes, right.
And then in that internal feng shui that we're doing that with a practitioner, or get a book and study it. And then each house can have its own situation. I was in a house not too long ago where there was actual death.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody died from illness, and the spirit was still there, but still the information of all the years of suffering that this person went through was there. So there was a clearing that took place. I used tobacco, mopacho from Peru. I use that. I use intention, the intention of
the clear
the energy, just like if I was working with you, I can feel in a sense where there's chaos or lines underneath the house or things like that. We can strengthen the whole environment from that. There's so many wonderful ways, but I just like to, of all my time on the planet, the most success I see come is from when we really take care of ourselves physically.
True. That would include diet,
right? Sleep, right?
Sleeping, exercise.
Yeah, and there's just such a much bigger life.
To strengthen that and the environment around you.
Yeah, and then otherwise you could be running around trying to clear little bandits out of your house because you're attracting them in because of the chaos in the house, right?
Right. So like the hamster wheel, the proverbial hamster wheel.
Smoke and drink beer, and, I wonder why I was coughing and I didn't feel good, So somebody says, "Well, you smoke too much."
Didn't make that connection, huh?
No, I didn't. I mean, I grew up in the day and age where everybody.
Yeah.
I tell people, my friends in the military coming out of Nam, they could run, and smoke at the same time. So I tried to be like them.
Yeah, those role models. Anyway.
It didn't work.
It didn't. Anyway, Bart, I want to thank you so much for being here and spending some time and sharing with our audience.
Thank you.
And if they wanted to get in contact with you, they would contact you, your website?
Yeah, they can just go to bartsmyth.com. That's BARTSMYTH.com. It's also moderndayshaman.net, but Bart Smyth's faster and easier. So.
Okay, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And always you can come and see what's going on at the Cosmic Center Spiritual Light here in Sarasota, Florida, by going to www.ccosl.com. Namaste.
Namaste.